I still want a place in Japan. It's still on the books.
Well, I'm going to take a moment. You can respond or not respond. I just want to make a statement that I had wanted to make. For those people who are watching, who've made it through this long interview or been fast forwarding.
I'm sorry I talked too much, but
no, I'm happy to talk it. People can pick and choose the material they want to see. So I want to make it a point that for those who are watching who do not know who we're speaking to, he is the author of a book that I have to have, here. This is a Knife Nerd's Guide to Japanese Knives. I know in all the knife forums, it is like the first book that we all owned.
Really?
Believe it or not, as much as I love Japanese knives, I have not made it through the entire thing because I like taking in info and learning. I don't want to just read it and say the words out loud and not get it. So I love each blacksmith, and I own almost all of them. There's only a couple that I don't own currently, but well, I'm fortunate financially to be able to to do all that. But I'm going to say this out loud. You can refute it, whatever. I believe in the Western world that you have become. Maybe you didn't set out to be, maybe, whatever, but that through you have kind of helped. You've really spawned knife culture in the Western world, because when people come into this, when they go into a forum and whatever, it goes into, have you seen Springhammer? Have you read this book?
Really?
And so it becomes this, like, don't even talk to me, because if you just do these things, then the questions you're asking will be irrelevant. Like, they're all answered for you. Start here. And then you literally see the repost of Springhammer constantly of the new guy that shows up. Hey, is there any place? And then there's a link posted. And then when you come back, you're like, oh my gosh, thank gosh, I've seen that movie. And it did so many things for me. And then when I sit down to read this, I mean, it's a big book. For those of you that know, it's a pretty big book. And there is the culture of Japan, there's the making, and then there's the individual people. And then you kind of get on board with Japanese knife culture. So in a weird way, well, like I said, I'm trying to blow you up and give you credit. Knife culture for me began with the products that you made. So I'm thanking you for that. And I know a lot of other people came through that same gateway. So anyway, whether you respond or not, I just wanted you to know that was a big impact on us. And we appreciate the time, effort, energy, and money that you have spent to be able to bring the Japanese knife culture to us. So that's my thank you.
Ooh.
Sorry to make it so heavy.
Well, thank you. That's.
Well, somebody had to go bring Japan to us.
I'm beyond surprised by this, to be honest. As you know, I don't really go and hang out at forums. So I don't really.
No, we actually had that discussion that you don't.
No, but it's too painful for me.
So another thing that I'll,
because all it takes is one person to say something shitty about my brand, and it'll wreck my fucking week.
I understand. I'm a hairdresser, so I get good reviews, bad reviews. I've learned to shake it off. But I will also say that if I need to know something, if there's something going on, a lot of times I'll go to your site for the background of the blacksmith, because you do a great job of putting the bio in of the company or the smith or the sharpener. I can get to know that. I would say if I had a suggestion, I would love to see you have a page, because I couldn't find it if it's there, on the different steels. Just so that way that's a reference that people can go. Because now that, like you said, Super Gold 2, I'm going to say this next word wrong. Is it Jinsan?
Ginsan.
Ginsan 3?
Ginsan, yeah.
So, those are, some of the new steels like the SKD, the stainlesses that are kind of happening, that are little, you can walk away and not like freak out if you buy a knife. The semi-stainless steels like that are kind of a great knife that you're getting into, and you can kind of mess up a little bit. But it would be nice that people can go in and say, like, I can click here on SJ2 and then see all the knives that you offer in SJ2, and I can see the definition. Or I can click here on just powdered steels and learn what that means metallurgically. And then here's a list of all the knives that we make that are powdered steel. And so that would be like an option of, you know, hey, semi stainless is going to be our SKD or Ginseng, stuff like that. And that would be kind of cool. This is something that the site doesn't have. Your site's huge.
Well,
Huge.
I'll talk to Ellie about it. You know, I've got this wizard that works for us. Her name's Ellie. She's a wizard. She has revolutionized our website. She's revolutionized everything. Like her brain works differently than mine. I love it, right? But when we decided we were going to get serious about selling online, she says, "Yeah, but it's got to be the best." She goes, "We can't be shitty." She goes, "So if you order on Wednesday morning, I want it on the truck Wednesday afternoon."
Nice. Keep
right?
those.
So we are trying to get it shipped within 24 hours of you ordering. And by shipped, I mean we pick it off the shelves, we give it the full inspection, we cut, we sharpen it if we think it needs it, we wrap it in a way that it's not going to be busted when it gets to you, and then hopefully we're getting most international deliveries now, like to the States, I think like 2 days.
Yes. So
right?
By the way, this is kind of a funny thing. You won't really find me in your customer directory. I have an alias that you might find me under.
Oh.
I have like a friend who orders things for me, and then they just magically appear in my home. And so
I wasn't going to look for you if that's what you're saying.
I was just letting you know.
I wasn't going to look for you.
Store, but my name's
I don't. You know what? There's a lot of people in the world, and there's a lot of restaurants. There's a lot of places you can buy knives. I hope people come to our place and buy knives. That's the goal, right? So
you go
like
through stuff. I mean, your garage sales, and I mean, you go through knives. I mean, I go to your site, and then things are sold out. They might be there one day, and then they're not the next, or 30 seconds later, and then you have massive sales and you have access to knives that I've never seen on certain sites. Like I go and I see like what was the one I talked to you about? I'm having a low carb moment right now.
We'll go eat something.
Shigafusa. So I own one. I'm very fortunate to just have one of their lower end Santoku.
Yeah.
You know, it's got the Kuriichi finish. But you had like a $2,000, Yanagaba that was like and I'm like, oh, I can't even afford it. And I said, even if I had the money, it's gone. And I'm thinking, who's going to buy it? And 30 seconds later, it's gone. So you guys,
the garage sale is insane. I've gone and invented this garage. All it was I was going to Japan. How it started was I was going to Japan and I'd meet a new blacksmith. Or I'd see something they were testing, like Saji would say, "Oh, I'm trying these out. Here's 7 knives. Tell me what you think," right? So I'd buy them and bring them back. Or it would be one of a kinds. Or sometimes with Tojiro, I'll go and buy all their scratch and dent. Like they'll have a whole palette of knives that are, for whatever reason, a problem. Usually because they don't like the way the name looks on the blade, or because they've put the wrong name on the blade, because they make a lot of knives for department stores in Japan. So maybe it says Macy's on it, but they put in the Neiman Marcus box, right? And instead of replacing it, they just sell it to me for nothing. So what happens is we can sell these for super cheap. Like I remember we had these knives that had, like I said, the box and the blade said the wrong names. They would normally sell in Japan for about 120 Canadian dollars, so about $100 American. And we were selling them for 60 Canadian dollars because they gave it to us for so cheap, right? Just to get rid of them. And they're so funny. They're like, "You just want to buy our garbage?" I'm like, the right garbage. Yeah. So, and that's how the garage sale started. And it's really become something crazy now. We've got blacksmiths coming to us saying, "I made this for your garage sale." Right. Which is outstanding.
That is hilarious that we made.
So yeah, like Kurosaki and Masashi, the Moritaka said they got something coming next garage sale, but they've always, so we've got now guys that just say, "Hey, we want to try something new. We want to see what people think. Could you carry this at the garage sale?"
There you go.
Right on, dude. We'll totally do that.
Is there anything that you see that's the future? Like 30 years ago, we had BG10, SG2, BG2, but is there any like steel that's breaking out? You mentioned some earlier that some people are doing some new stuff. Is that what you want to stick to? That's the new technology?
ATS 34 is really cool.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to say something crazy, and you might all think I'm crazy, but I think people are going to discover that VG10 is actually fantastic.
So
Too many people, especially knife nerds, especially people that, if anybody has lasted this long in the interview, they're probably of the mindset of VG10, that's entry-level garbage. Truth is, it's a fantastic steel.
So my entry level to Japanese knives was Shun, which is a VG10 knife, and so Bob Kramer was teaching me on a piece of shit. I couldn't get it sharp. He's like, do you have a nice knife? I'm like, I have a Shun. He's like, grab that, and we did VG10 and I got it like incredible. And so I know that I got it incredible. Now, Shun is a 16-degree knife, and their heat treat can be different than someone else's heat treat and more brittle, whatever. And Shun is known to have a little bit of a brittle issue as far as some chipping. But yes, I
don't think Shun has brittle issues. I think people that buy Shun aren't educated when they buy them, and they abuse the shit out of them.
I also agree.
Shun knives are built to be. I'm going to disagree with you entirely on this, and I'm sorry. We can fist fight about it. We can fist fight about it later. I think Shun knives are not brittle. I think they're built to be robust. I think people think, oh, this steel's hard. I can cut through a car door. And they just abuse the shit out of the knives.
I do think people misuse knives.
I think the other part and the hugest problem I've seen with Shun knives is chefs that some places, and it's like I've seen them in the States, I've seen them in Canada, I've seen it in England, where they've got like a bucket of sanitizer they keep their knives in. Like in the sanitizer, which is insane. But this really eats away at the VG10. And they get these pitting. They get pitting on it. Or if they put it through the dishwasher a lot. I don't think Shuns are I don't think Shuns are brittle at all. I think people treat them shitty because they're uneducated or because they use it and they go, that's the best knife I've ever used. And then they just go and beat the snot out of it.
Yes.
That's my theory.
I've seen people go in their garage and do stuff with a knife.
I don't think Shuns are brittle at all. Convince me they are. Tell me.
Powdered steel. It's the future. We love it. Are people buying it? Do they understand it? I've become a big fan of R2 steel myself. I can sharpen it, unlike ZDP 189. So, I mean, you get a ZDP 189, it is sharp. It's going to be sharp for a long time. But if you get it dull finally, you do probably have to send it to a guy who knows what he's doing, because you have to have stones that are hard enough to sharpen the ZDP 189, and you have to be willing to put the elbow grease into that. I think the R2 is a little bit more forgiving.
R2's, ZDP 189 is so wear resistant. It's so hard. It's so hard to sharpen. I, years ago, made a huge mistake. I bought ZDP Yanagibas and Debas and was sold some of them. I sold them. And then somebody brought a Deba back, 180 millimeter Deba ZDP with a chip.
I'm like, what the hell were you doing with this?
It took me a week to fix it. It took me forever, dude.
Trying to get into like a safe?
Oh, dude, it was so awful. It took me forever. And I didn't have a machine then either. I was doing everything by hand then. And just burning through stones.
So I made a very little watched movie that came out last night on a Swiss knife called Raven. And it is high impact ceramic. And so this company was like, we've made this new product. We're going to make a knife. And unfortunately, they decided to show off a little bit and make it super flexible to show that even though it's high impact, it doesn't break. And it's got like a record for like longest edge retention. But a viewer sent it to me to specifically do a review. And it was used. So I said, I said all that. But I think when this company like makes it less flexible, because when I went to cut like a cucumber straight, if you put your edge in and then bent your hand a little bit, it wasn't straight because the knife would flex. But it looked like steel, and it had a shitty, crappy like $12 or less handle on it. But I mean, it's one of those things where when they get this high impact ceramic, I'm wondering what effect it's going to have in the knife world. because of the edge retention and able to get it sharp. I think people are still going to buy Japanese artisan knives because there's just a love of a person making something by hand. But I do think it's going to definitely, in a way, influence the standard of like, can you get your Japanese knife as sharp as this Swiss guy did? I don't know if you'd even seen any of this stuff or.
No, I haven't seen them, but I know that Kyocera has been making ceramic blades forever. The thing I'm most impressed with the Kyocera ceramic blades, the most impressive thing is that they stay sharp a long time, but they're never sharp.
Well, so
they're just not sharp.
I literally like
they keep that medium sharpness for a long time.
I said the same thing.
I don't want a medium sharp
for a long time doesn't mean you were ever actually sharp. So I agree with you there. You're gonna have to really impress me. I had a Takeda Honosuke 180 millimeter, thick as hell, and with a pie cutlery custom handle. I took it out of the box. And I literally just put on some leather, just said it traveled, and it was 50 on the best. And it was the best score I've ever seen, ever, period. I mean, it was like literally razor blade sharp. And people will argue all day, like a razor blade being so thin. And I'm like, this knife is literally the thickest knife. I got 3 knives together, and no knife is thicker than this knife. And yet it's still a 50. That is technique. That is grain structure. That is heat treat. That is knowledge of that Scandi grind to the end. I'm sorry. There is a man with history and knowledge who made this thing. And if you're happy with your mediocre sharpness, then you're good. But when you bought this and you literally lay it down and it just cuts through chicken, you don't even see the chicken bow a little bit. Like it's just in 2 pieces. It's a lightsaber. And there's a difference. And people, you said it when you were in London in a Japanese shop and you held a Japanese knife for the first time and you were like, what? And I'm like, I still, every time I buy a new knife and I'm like, I haven't fallen out of love with that experience. And people who've never felt a sharp knife just do not know what we know.
We made a great video the other day, and I think it's Naoto's top 5 knives of 2021. I actually have to do a rebuttal. I don't agree with him. So I'm going to do my own.
I haven't seen it yet. I saw it listed, but I haven't seen it yet.
I'm going to do my own top 5 knives, so him and I can fist fight about this. But there's one point where he pulls, and I don't want to tell you which knife, but he pulls a knife out and he cuts a tomato, and you hear him laughing in the background.
Okay.
Because he, even us, he's been with us 10 years. He's probably the best knife sharpener in Canada. And he cut something and giggled. Because he's like, oh shit, that was great.
I take a knife.
It's amazing. It's amazing because I never get tired of that. You
put a tomato down, and someone was watching me, and I drew lines through it. And to them, it was like magic. Like, did the knife go through the tomato? And then I pushed them and they fell. And there's no juice on the cutting board. And I'm like, there's no pressure. The wedged blade is not crushing the cells. It's almost cauterizing. And you said something in a video that you told it a different way because you used the example you used was steak and a serrated edge. But
massive difference.
So we talk about another example I give on how a sharp knife affects food. Cutting food evenly makes cooking evenly. Cutting food evenly makes appearance you eat with your eyes. If you see, because I just did a video this week on a fugu hiki versus yanagaba. And when they take the fugu and they place it in the shape of a chrysanthemum so you can see the design of the plate through, and then I'm going to say this word wrong. I'm going to try. It's zukuri, which is the pattern, the slicing thin. I think I said it's right. Is that right? And I'm like, when you eat fish, when you go to eat sushi, you're mediocre East Coast of America. Guy didn't really know what he's doing sushi, but that fish should not be tethered. It should not have feathery edges. Perfect, beautifully cut, no juices released. I'm sorry. And that knife presentation, desire, edibility. Yes, your food is really affected by a sharp knife. So I'm sorry. it's a thing. And so you were conveying it. I'm like, listen, guy, you just have to use a knife and realize the joy is increased of cooking, the appearance, the desire to eat the food, the way it actually tastes in your mouth. If the juice is on the cutting board, it's not in my mouth. So there's a lot going on. So finishing up, we talked about store in Japan, powdered steel, high impact ceramic. So the things that, so we want to know the knife that got away, the knife that was in the store, that's not part of your collection. You thought about it, you didn't do it. You look back and you say, I wish I had. Is there a knife that got away?
Lots. There's lots. I love one-of-a-kind knives. I really do. I love unique knives. I can't have all of them because sometimes we have to sell them.
Yeah.
Every now and again, I need to pay my staff. And we need to.
So I'm going to mention this. You brought it up and I'm going to mention. So people are going to hear this for the first time. But based on what you just said, I do think that in this next year, maybe even before the end of this year, that my collection will be for sale because I have owned them and I've used them and I love them. But I don't have another $15,000 to buy all the new blacksmiths coming out. And for me to continue reviewing, to experience them and to share them, some money recycling is probably going to have to happen. And my first knife, an Onryu 225 millimeter, 20 millimeter, that I'll probably never get rid of ever because he's retired and it's a whole big thing and it's just amazing. And, there's a couple that you'll just kind of hang on to, but I can see there's so many people. Will you sell? Will you sell? No. But I do think there will come a day where I'm like, I've owned it and other people want to know it. And there's other knives that I want that I don't have the money for. So I'm with you that that there is a rotation of that. I get it. I still want the Shig if you get one day. You know what? I'm going to ask you a question that I wanted to ask. I didn't write it down. Hanyaki. I'm afraid of it. I want it. I'm afraid that I'm going to use it and scratch it and can't make it nice again. You sell them? Do you own them? Okay. But someone once told me it's the only knife worth owning.
The greatest thing about having a bunch of knife shops and an office that's too big means I can have boxes of knives in here. And look at this one. It's my buddy at Horace and Jasper made me this great knife sheath. It's rock and roll leather with studs and rabbit fur because you need something special.
Yes. I'm looking at the Akita.
A special blade.
Did I say his name? Akita, right? That's gorgeous.
And it says Hochomania,
which means
kitchen knife crazy or kitchen knife nerd. That's my Japanese name, I've decided.
And so what are we looking at?
So this is this is obviously handmade lacquer. This is a lacquer artist. And I love
that you're not even going to touch it with your bare hand. You're like, I'm going to just.
Oh no, there's a fingerprint on it. It disgusts me. I don't use this knife much.
No.
Right? But I selected the blacksmith. I selected the sharpener. I selected the engraver. I selected the lacquer craftsman. And here is one of my Hanyaki blades, but the one I love the most.
240? 240 millimeter?
240 millimeter is my default size.
Yep.
But I don't know if you can see. Let's see.
Are we a Bluetooth?
A little bit. Nope. Shirogami.
Okay.
Shirogami.
I see the one. Yeah.
And bananas, dude! It's so thin.
Oh yeah. I'm smiling. I don't know if you can see me. I'm smiling.
It's and yeah, was it mirrored when I got it? Sure was. Is it mirrored now? No.
Okay.
Was it perfect? Yeah. Is it perfect now? Nope.
Okay.
Can I pick it out of a group? Yep, because it's mine. I know it.
So you guys.
So if you get a Hanyaki knife, it's not going to stay perfect.
Okay.
Did you ever have a leather jacket?
Yeah, but they're not meant to be perfect. They're meant
is it better when it's 10 years old, or is it better when it's 1 year old? Hanyaki knives change. They patina. They
I
become
need to
your
get my
knife.
patina, yeah.
Yeah. Will it get scratched up? Yeah. Yeah, it will.
Okay.
I don't care.
So your
Do I
opinion,
love this
I'm looking
knife?
at that
Damn right I do.
Akita. Is it Akita? Akita.
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 It's like $1,300 and something for the Akita 240. Maybe it's a 270. My default's 270. I used to love 240, but I kind of jumped up a little bit. I'm liking 270.
You know, when I was a chef, 270 was my default, but at home, honestly, 210 is probably a smarter size. Now we sell like our number one size knife that we sell is 210.
I saw in your bio, you wrote the Fujiwara. I cannot say this. I can say it if I'm reading it. Is it
Mabaroshi
195 millimeter? That's what you wrote as your knife in your bio on your.
It changes all the time.
Okay.
It's like saying, what's your favorite whiskey?
I have a Dinka, like the Nakiri Dinka. So I'm looking at their 195 Nakiri Dinka. I think it's a great size.
Beefier than you think. That knife is way beefier than you think.
Okay.
It's heavier. It's heavier. It's taller. It's big. It's big. It's a bigger knife than you think it is.
Hell, people who don't know that knife, the knife is hard as hell. 65 Rockwell.
Dude, they cut like magic.
Yes.
But that's craftsmanship. Fujiwara-san, he kills it, man. Because do you know what he does? Do you know what the big deal is? So he makes 3 lines. Okay, he makes 3 lines.
I've seen them all.
If this gets boring, you can just tell me to shut up.
And the CG line.
So he's got Nishiji. He buys layered steel.
Right.
And mostly his employees hammer that out and take care of it. He doesn't even look at them. Chances are he's never touched it or inspected it. Probably nothing. That's reflecting the price.
Yes. Okay.
Abroshi, same steel. It's shirogami with stainless steel on the outside, but laminated in-house, knife by knife.
And you say it better than me. I say tashimi, but you say it better. Tsuchimi?
Tsuchimi.
Finish.
Sorry, Tsuchime.
TSU. Tsuchime. Finish. On the same steel, the shirogami.
Difference is they didn't buy the layered steel. They made the layered steel in-house.
Okay.
Thing is with Fujiwara-san, most people buy layered steel. When I say most, I mean like 95% of blacksmith knives. They're buying pre-laminated steel. They're buying rods of steel that are already done.
Do they heat them up and hammer them at all?
Oh, they hammer them. Yeah, it comes in like it's like just like a piece of steel like that, and they start hammering it. But it's already got the 3 layers, right?
Yeah,
already got the 3 layers. I think I have one around here to show you. No, I don't. So Fujiwara-san, he says, okay, let's do this in-house because him and his father really pioneered this method of doing carbon steel with stainless.
Yes, that's why I own one, because I knew they pioneered cladding.
Yeah. So he said him and his dad did in the 70s, and they thought they would throw away about 20%. He says they threw away about 90% of their knives at first. He said it was a terrible move, and he thought it was going to kill him. It was going to break him, but it ended up working out in the end. And so many knives are built that way because it's the smartest way to build a knife in my mind.
It is. My
opinion. Carbon steel core, stainless steel at the outside. Anybody can use it. It's easy to take care of. You still cut with carbon steel. It's brilliant. Other knives are mildly stupid in comparison. So he actually hammers them. So what he does is he takes a piece of stainless, piece of carbon, piece of stainless, puts them together, hammers them out, right? Other blacksmiths do that, but he somehow makes his shirogami harder and stay sharp longer than most people shirogami. It's because he starts with a fatter piece. They'll do it like the Moritakas do their own, and they'll start with a pretty skinny piece, but Fujiwara starts with a big fat piece. The more you hammer it, the harder steel and the denser the steel gets. The more hammering and the more forging effect that happens to the steel as well. So it just feels like blue steel. He does the same with his Aogami Super, which he calls Shigusa Ko as well, which just means kind of like the best one. That's what his dad would say. Hey, son, go over there and get the Chigusuko, the best one, the really good steel, right? So they apply that same thing. And honestly, because that Denka knife, it performs different than everybody else's Agami Super. It just does. And that's craftsmanship. And that goes back again to saying this idea that, it's Agami Super, it's Agami Super. They must be the same thing, right? Not even close. Totally different things. Takeda's Agami Super, amazing. Fujiwara's Agami Super, amazing.
And they're
being in the room with them together at the same time, not amazing.
Yes. So we went through a lot of questions today. I asked all 31 but one, because I did ask you how your shaving brand is doing. I don't know if you answered it.
Yeah, we're getting, you're going to see more and more pocket knives and more fixed blade knives from Canadian blacksmiths in there.
But you did say, and something I agree with, that shaving with a straight razor is a skill. I'm a hairdresser, so I already had to, but it is a skill that men want to learn. It's an old craft.
And it's easier than you think. It's actually it's way easier than you think it is. It just
prep the skin. If people get into more skin prep, and the skin is ready to release the hair, then the razor blade, a good clean blade, and keeping it clean, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
So literally the last question is, any ideas on life after the knife?
What do you mean?
A retirement ever? Are you going to just be 90 something years old and think I'm still going down the shop, or you'll always be associated with your brand, you'll never let it go? Or
3 or 4 years ago, an American investment firm approached us and offered us an awful lot of money for the company, enough that made me pause and talk to my finance advisors and my business advisors. And Josh, a shout out to Josh at Stwelski McGill, he straightened me out. He said, Kevin, there's going to be a no compete clause. You won't be able to start another knife brand. You're going to be done with the knife thing. What do you want to do? And I said, well, I like being a knife guy.
You're the original knife nerd.
So I realized that I can't, I don't know. I don't want to see retirement. I don't like retirement. I'm in retirement now. I don't have to go to the shop every day. My job today, I worked for 2 hours talking to you.
I enjoy seeing you on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so there's going to be, there's going to be fewer live shows now that we're getting back to normal business. We're going to have fewer live shows. It's going to be once a week. So right now we have 3 lives a week. We're just going to have 1 a week. So it's going to alternate the different shows. Each week will be a different one. And we do our show called Sharp Knives Rock, which you're going to see more of. And you're going to see more pre-recorded, better quality films. So we're trying harder now to just do better product for viewing.
So for those who are watching my channel, we have I have to break it up into 2 things. I have a chef who's famous that I've cooked with her. I'm a self-trained chef. I've never worked in a restaurant. I'm actually a pretty good cook. And I cooked with her for thousands of people online for a day. And she has millions of followers. She's won the Dole Pineapple top 5 in the world cooking, been all over the Food Network. And
who's this?
Her name is Alice Phillips. She's from the area. I remember the day she goes, I'm going to try this cooking thing. And then literally had the big shoulder camera. And, people were like, what are you doing? People blogging before people were. Went on Master Chef with Gordon Ramsay and cussed him out for whatever reason. But every Aspen Food Festival, all these different things she's been on. She was GE's Grandmother of the Year this past year. Just finished her reign traveling for GE appliances. And so she has a studio in her home, and I've been her sous chef sometimes on there. And we've decided that I'm going to do a line of videos for these middle America at-home moms who cook with 3 ingredients, which are like, what is a nice knife? What's a nice knife under $100? So my Tuesday night episodes are non-knife nerd videos to get you to knife nerd status. And the knife nerds who want to know metallurgy and whatever, Friday nights are left for things like that. So this week, Friday night is Kevin Kent, who will be, it's an 8:00 Friday night release that we do. Tuesday night is chopping technique this coming week. Next Friday night is me. I have a video called Still the King, which is our king whetstone, still like everything that they said that they would be. So I have been buying like all the latest unheard of whetstones to do reviews on. A video I just shot was the Fujiwara versus the Yanagaba, so I can show like how they're different, how they're the same. And so I've been teaching people what each knife does. And then if I've ever talked about something that's from Knifewear, I mean, there's always links to wherever I bought this from.
Thank you.
I meant to ask you about the cutting boards because I'm getting ready to do a review on all cutting boards from Edge Grain. I know you have like a cutting board that you sell that some friends of mine own and they love, but you did not grab any of the synthetic rubber. You said sometimes you carry some of the Japanese synthetic rubber.
Yeah. You know what? Naoto's a big fan. We sometimes carry them, the Hasegawa.
Yeah. I love the Hasegawa. I love it.
I really like wooden cutting boards. They feel right. They grip the food right. If I'm filleting a fish, they stay there. I can't damage them. The brand we're buying that we sell the most of from Larchwood, it's made from sustainable forestry in Nova Scotia, Canada. Yeah. They don't, unless you're just doing something stupid like getting it wet or whatever, putting it in the dishwasher, but they don't crack. They don't warp. They're gentle on the knives because they're end grains. So the grains run up and down, right? And so the knife comes in, it just kind of comes in and splits the.
And then when you wet the wood, it swells and self-heals.
And larchwood's not. It's either the hardest of the softwoods or the softest of the hardwoods. It's right there, so it's not so abusive to your knives. I just love these larchwood boards. I think they're a great brand. I like that they have sustainable forestry techniques. Like they stand behind their product. Anytime we've had even checking, which is just when the natural grain gets a crack in it in like one square, they even take care of most of those for us, which they certainly don't have to because that's just the wood. That's not craftsmanship at all, right?
Right.
That's just God. He just made a tree that wasn't perfect for a cutting board that day, right?
Well, good business people stand behind their product. And I grew up in a world where customer service was everything. And so we appreciate people like yourself who reach out and say, look, if I sold you something that wasn't satisfactory, I'm going to make good on it. And let's just get it right. Let's get it right and move on from here and keep our relationship.
But the Hasegawa boards, they're good. You know what the problem is? We don't have a lot of demand from our customers for them.
Well, and that would vary because they tend to lend themselves towards slicing techniques. So people who are choppers, that rubber can kind of grab. If you're more of a sushi chef, you're using and you say, I'm learning, I've learned so many, I'm gonna watch my own videos so many times. I would say something as easy as Yanagaba, but you say Yanagiba.
Hi, which means yes in Japanese. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. Yanagiba.
Yanagiba.
Ba means edge, right? Like knife.
My go-to Japanese phrase is "Watashi no tokoro de nanaka no mumasen ka."
Oh, whoa! I don't know all those words.
That is, do you want to come to my place for a drink?
Oh, so good. I like
things you got to know.
I love
things a person's got to know.
Yeah, I like nomikai. Nomikai,
which is
the Japanese word for drinking after work with work people.
Oh, nomikai? No, but they don't have intonation. You got to say ka, right?
Yes, they do. They say they don't.
Okay. Okay. Listen,
colloquial Japanese is very different than school Japanese. Same with English, right? You and I speak different. You and I speak very well English, almost fluently, I'd say, but we both speak differently.
I will tell you that in the last year that I was learning Russian between Japanese, Spanish, and a little bit of Hebrew, I have learned how lazy human beings are. And instead of saying in Russian, nya, they would say ni, like simple, ni hatilaba instead of nya hatilaba. And they wouldn't, like the people who are listening to their own language being spoken to them, they're hearing you not make the sound. And so when you're listening to Japanese and they're like listening for sounds and cues, whether it's a particle or like ka to say it was a question, and you say, wakarimasu ka, like when you say the things that you're supposed to say, like, hajimemashite, watashi wa Blythe Gregory desu, yorokushu onegashimasu. like to say all of the sounds that you're supposed to say, so that because the Japanese, like a lot of people, if you're going to not say my language right, could you just not say it? Because I really don't want to hear you butcher it. So it has helped me a little bit more to articulate my own language, because I'm learning that my language has sounds that I've been very lazy. Southerners, there's a difference between Southern speech and country, by the way. But being a Southerner, you have your colloquial, like lazy, hey man, you want to blah, blah, blah. But I do think that I'm getting better. My children, I said, I love you live in Canada because now you're bilingual. When they came home and they didn't say, excuse me, they said, pardon. And I was like, oh, okay, things have changed now. So, but the world is getting smaller. Zoom, here we are connecting across the continent, the same continent, far away in 2 different time zones. You're going to Japan, bringing that world. I appreciate you being on the channel today. You gave me a lot of time. You did not yell at me like, Greg, I gotta go. Thank you.
Like I said, I booked the time off. You know what, Greg? I had all the time in the world for you. I went for a midnight bike ride last night. We went for an 80K bike ride. It was so much fun. But
I've done 75 miles. I don't know kilometers on that, but yeah.
It's about 50 miles.
Yeah.
But we waited till the sun went down. So I didn't actually get home till 4, which was in metric 4 o'clock. I think that's the same as Imperial, though.
Yeah.
Good joke for the day.
You convert.
Yeah, so I got home at 4. So I just had a quick 7-mile ride to come back here to do this show. Yep. So I've had a very easy day. I had a beer. You saw? I had a beer. I had a coffee.
Whiskey is done.
I had some water. I talked about knives with a guy that was fun and cool. I don't know. I had a good day. I had a good day.
Well, I look forward to watching you. I'll send you a link to the show when it's out if you want to see what you look like.
I won't. I hate it. I don't like watching or talking or listening or nothing.
Okay.
Which is terrible. The way to get better is to, dissect it, look at it, listen, think, how can I get better? But I just can't stand watching it.
Well, I'll tell you that I'm excited that in just a normal everyday guy, in 8 months and 117 videos, I got monetized. So I'm now paid by YouTube for my channel.
Oh, hey, congrats. That's good.
We're not making a lot of money at all right now, not to recoup the 15 grand in knives that we spent. But the lights and the microphone and the computer we're on right now is a car payment to be able to process 4K. People have no clue what we go through to be able to bring, all these things to them. But we did make it to that far. We are just a normal everyday guy telling people about our experiences. I claim to not be an expert on anything. We're all on a journey together. I got to meet an amazing person who loves, like myself, Japanese culture first. I love artisanship, handmade tools. It was awesome. So I appreciate you so much. Thanks for coming. I love hopefully checking in on you. I don't know when I'll be in your home city. I know I'll check out your shop when I'm in Vancouver.
Please do. The shop, we try to shoot for a feel somewhere between a jewelry store and an old record or comic book shop.
Okay. So I'll be in Toronto sometime and I'll check out your new store that's coming to a.
We were going to do one this spring, but this whole COVID thing, it really wrecked everything. So,
well, everything happens in God's time. So thank you so much.
Hey, thanks
for everybody watching this channel. We appreciate him giving us the time. We know that this was definitely not a dull moment. My channel, by the way, is called Not a Dull Moment.
Oh, look at that.
Do you like that? And so I know that definitely was not a dull moment. And just once again, just being gracious. Thank you for your time. I look forward to spending some money with your company.
I appreciate that.
No problem. I don't mind doing it. My wife does, but I don't mind.
That's fine.
God bless.
Cheers, man. Thanks.
Bye.